special guest for the special guest. Let's go. Hold on, here she comes.
Consider me a big shot. What up to Steve? Mimi and Scrap, yo. I'm all love and hip hop. Yes, so solid. It flows through my body. And if you got it, love, I'm told that's what God is. I'm Tyrone Biggins. Whenever love is given to me, pragmatic. I'm just an addict for your love. I gotta have it. My problems disappear when love's connected. I never wanna take back an hour, minute, or second. What a blessing. Love ain't proud. It ain't true. Love, it rejoices.
I could not
love is so patient, kind, it doesn't
like I tried to do in my first marriage.
Love your enemies.
Nor
this love sink in. Got love
try to be something that I absolutely was
Let
not.
me be more convincing. Maybe you can dive in and exegete or censor, dissect the scripture. Where Bishop, we show love. Or if you a sinner, transgender like Jenna, well, Caitlin, we show more love. Basic
well, I'm sure all of them, but I only deal with it.
I don't know one love, then add or multiply it. Don't want to swear by it. I promise if you don't have love, your life will be full of the opposite, and that's a big mistake. You're trying to demonstrate all love in sync like Justin Timberlake, and that's a big mistake. You're trying to demonstrate all love in sync.
Yeah, they have to forgive the other person, and then they, first of all, they got to forgive themselves first before they can go and forgive the other person. Because it starts with you. Everything we do, whether it's love or whatever, it starts with us first. We got to love ourselves first before we can show love towards other people. You know, and we got to forgive ourselves before we can show forgiveness towards others. And also, you have to receive forgiveness from God. And so many people, they have not forgiven themselves, nor have they received the forgiveness of God, because they still hold themselves captive, you know, and they crucify themselves for whatever they've done in the past.
Right, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode of Love Sync Ministries Love Sessions. And you know our scripture is 1 John 4:8. He that loveth not knoweth not God. And why is that? Because God is a love. So we appreciate you guys tuning in once again. Also, remember on Facebook to make sure that you hit the like button, hit those hearts, make sure that you comment, and make sure that you share the video. On the YouTube side, do all that same stuff, but on the YouTube side, I really need you to do some subscriptions. We only been at this about 2.5 months, and the subscriptions are going up and the views are going up. I greatly appreciate it, so y'all keep it. Now, when you do subscribe, make sure that you put it on public so I can see your name. So when we get to that 100 subscriber, we'll go ahead and give you $100. And then the other one was saying, well, we get to help them get $100. What about us? So I said, okay, great. I run the random generator. Guess what? Anybody from 1 to 99, you'll be able to win $100 also. So that's $200 of my hard-earned unemployment, disability, and all that money going to you. So make sure you make that happen. So, okay, let's get ready to get this party started. So I ran into a young lady that was on Facebook as I was scrolling, and I saw something that caught my eye, and it was interesting. So put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for my new friend, Miss Pamela Turner. How's it going, lady?
I'm well, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing just great, Hey, well, see, what I want to do here is the way I start off my show. I started off with 5 questions right off the bat just to get us started, get the juices flowing, and get the nervousness out. You ready for it?
Oh, I'm ready. Let's hit it.
All right, then. Let's do this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and ask you, what is your spirit animal?
What is my spirit animal? I would say an eagle.
An eagle? Okay.
Yeah, an eagle.
And why would it be an eagle?
Because it soars. It's the strongest bird there is. It soars over storms. It's like no other mammal. It does what it does. You know what I'm saying? It really just it exemplifies strength, courage, tenacity. List goes on and on.
I got you. That was good. I thought you were going to give a little short answer, but that's good. You broke it down. All right.
Are you going to play on me tonight?
No. And what month were you born in?
What month? September.
September?
Yes.
So September the what?
14th.
Okay. So my sister's September the 21st. I think she's a Virgo. No, it's
yes,
Virgo. Okay. All right. And also, what's your favorite car?
Favorite car? It's a Mercedes G Sport, a G Spot. It's a kind of like a safari type Jeep.
Okay. I got you. All right. And what is your favorite season?
Spring.
Spring. All right. Coming up pretty soon because this winter ain't no joke.
Yeah, for
All
real,
right. All right. And last but not least, let me see, what was my question? I forgot it that quick. I'm getting old. Okay, I got one for you. If you're taking a long trip, would you rather drive or fly?
A long trip. Wow, that's a hard question, to be honest with you. I fly.
You'll fly? Okay, then you go ahead and get it over with. I got you.
Yeah.
All right, then. So now let's get ready to get into the seriousness. So my first question to all my guests is, when did you first get saved? But then when did you really started taking the word serious?
Wow, yeah, and that's for real. And it goes just like that. I was saved as a child. I was about 4 years old. I was sitting at a church in Chicago on the south side named Mount Zion. And when I left the service, we was driving home and I said, Mama, I want to join the church. You know, at 4 years old, you know, that's your way of acknowledging. But and my mom was like, well, do you know what you're saying? And I said, yes, ma'am, you know. And so we started talking about the Lord, and I acknowledged God then. And so when I became devoted unto the Lord, I was around about 21.
All right, I got you. So now let me ask you this then. So when you started taking your walk serious, were you married already or thinking about getting married or what?
No, I wasn't already married. No, I wasn't.
Wasn't married yet? Okay, so how long before, how long did you wait until you got married then once you got serious about it?
It was approximately, you said how long after I got serious that I got married?
No, once you said once you got serious, how long before you got married?
It was maybe about 3 years.
3 years, okay. And the reason I asked all that, because like I said, we're talking about our faith walk with God. We're talking about our decision-making process. And even though we consider ourselves saved and walking in that word, we still kind of stumble sometimes. So
yeah, that's right.
So with that, and you getting married, and how many kids did you end up having?
I have a total of 3 children.
3 children.
Living.
Okay.
Yes.
So how did your walking with God and believing in God and His Word? So how did that form your decision-making process in your marriage as a woman, as a wife, and as a mother?
Well, okay. Well, as I said, I knew the Lord at an early age, and even though I didn't take my walk as serious until early 20s, I still knew the Lord. And what I mean by not taking it serious was that diving into the Word, understanding the Word, implementing the Word into my life. Now, prior to that, I was always, you know, my mom raised us in church, and then I had some mishaps. When I was 16, I was raped, and so I conceived my oldest sons through that. And so I had children at an early age. I was 16 when I had them. The next week I turned 17, and so I had them. And then I met my my husband, or ex-husband now, but then my future husband. And so I carried on the belief that was instilled in me as a child throughout, you know, my teenage years. And then because I was already a parent before I was married, then I implemented the same beliefs and the same level of understanding of the word. I implemented that into my children. And then when I once again when I met my soon-to-be husband, we lived together. So the conviction of living together was the determining factor for us to get married. And so so it didn't go in order, basically what I'm saying. So I was a mother before I was a wife, and I was a live-in before I was a wife. So all of that entwined. And once again, the sustaining power was the Holy Spirit keeping me in spite of how I was living, in spite of what I had been through. You know, he still was keeping me, because once again, you know, I was everywhere. I was all over, in the sense of, you know, not being married before children and so on and so forth. But one thing I can say is that when the word is in you, the word is in you. And so regardless of, I might straight away, but I came back. So all of that, what I'm saying now is that the word that was in me pushed me to be a better mother, pushed me to be then a wife, instead of just a partner or a live-in quote unquote lover. So I hope I answered that question.
Oh, yeah, you're good. So now, see, because this is such a sensitive subject, and I don't want to say nothing wrong. So let me ask you, with the rape,
Mm-hmm.
how did you? I mean, did you feel guilty about what happened? Did you kind of like blame yourself, because, like, you know, well, I shouldn't have been this way, I shouldn't have been here, I shouldn't have done that, or do you like, no, it's not my fault? So how do you feel about that? How, you know, if you can kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And in the back of your head, you always, well, I'm not gonna say always, but I thought, could I have fought him harder? Could I have been, because what happened, I was walking home from school, I was sick, and someone that I was familiar with, him and his brother picked me up. And it was like, where are you going? I said, I'm trying to walk home from school, I'm not feeling well. So the story basically was that they was going to take me home, but they had to make a pit stop at their grandmother's house. And I'm sitting in the car, they invite me in, I lay down in a room at the grandmother's house. He forced himself, you know, then took me home. So without going through all of the details, that was the gist of it. So of course, my thought process is, could I have fought harder? Should I have gotten out of the car? Should I have stayed in the car? Should I have just tried to stay at school? So yeah, the thoughts at that time, and even up until later on in my years, I constantly thought what I could have done. Could I have done it differently? Especially when my children, my sons, as they got older, and I told them about it, then they wanted to challenge me on, well, how come you can't help us find our father? They was asking me to open up a wound that I had not totally healed from. So it was a lot of mental going on, a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine that. So did you ever get over that? Did you get your healing from that, where you were able to tell them?
Well, yeah, oh yes, I definitely got my healing from it. I was able to tell them. They was about 14 years old, and I finally told them, because once again, if you go back to the story of me getting married when they were small, my then husband, they knew him as father. That was the only father they knew. And then when we divorced, then once again it was a blaming. Well, mom, you know, you left, you know, you left dad, and da 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 da. And so now this equation of the father comes in. So it was definitely a twist. It was definitely a situation where I had to constantly pray. I had to constantly seek God in direction on how to tell them, what to tell them, and even to the point of strengthening me, because they were coming at me like, Mom, you know, you need to help us find our dad. And at 15 years old, they don't understand what you're asking me to do. Right. You know what I'm saying? You're asking me to open up a wound that I've been trying to heal for many years. So it was an ordeal at one time in my life. Yeah.
So now, so they have a relationship with their father now?
Well, actually, they found their father last year. Well, this is 21, so 2019. They met him in 2019. Unfortunately, when he got out of the service, he was addicted to drugs, and they found him as a homeless addict. And so they befriended him. When they saw him, they would give him, you know, food, do this and this and that. And unfortunately, he got sick March of last year, April of last year, and died. So they only knew him maybe 6 or 7 months.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's a sad thing to you know, really want to meet your dad, find your dad, then find him in that situation. So,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I
And getting think about my heart went out to them. My heart went
right.
out to them. Yeah, and what's an awesome thing about my sons is that they actually, because he was homeless, you know, they did provide a service for him. You know, they did, you know, because he was on life support, and so they were the determining factor when he got off the machine, and after that they provided, you know, his burial and all of that. So I commend my sons, you know, for doing what they thought was best, you know.
And I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask too, because since they were in that teenage years, I know how it is as a boy in that teenage years, what you need from your dad and all that kind of stuff. So being that now, did you tell them what their dad did to you?
Yes.
Okay, and so how did they kind of, you know, how did they wrap their mind around that?
Well, you
Here
know,
they are, they get ready to meet a man that actually violated their mother, actually committed a crime against their mother. So how did they wrap their head around it?
and you know, because they just recently met him, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they still have some issues because when he was alive and they were dialoguing with him, one of them would say, "Well, Pop said this is what happened," you know. So they almost tried to find a reason not to believe me
Mm-hmm.
versus the truth, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I have not, and this is the first time I'm actually even discussing this, to be honest with you, because it was just so recent, you know.
Right.
But their dialogue was, you know, Pop said, you know, and it's not, I'm old school. It's not about what Pop said, Mama said. Mama ain't gonna lie to you, you know,
Right.
and definitely not because I was the victim. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's part of the egotistic or the uh, um, how men sometimes think on crisis like this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if they really have accepted, you know, the fact that the man that they call Pops was a man that violated their mom,
Mm-hmm.
that raped her, you know. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they know that they was conceived out of rape, you know. And so that's something, yeah, that's something that we really got to revisit.
Right.
But once again, it's a touchy situation, and I commended them and I supported them and what they did as far as taking control of their father's remains. I wasn't present, but I supported them in knowing and letting them know that if this is what you do, that's what you do. I commend you for it.
Yeah. So now let me ask. So now, how's everything going for you these days? Have you really, been able to get over everything, forgive him, forgive yourself? So have you started, or are you still in the healing process?
Oh no, I'm good. I've been good for a very long time. I've been good for a very long time. It's just if there was any kind of residue of it per se, it would just be that knowing that my children understand what really transpired. But they're grown, and I can't change the past. You know, what happened is what happened. And so if there's any concerns on their behalf, then we can always sit down and talk about it. But for me, I've been good for a very long time. When I uh, when I became pregnant and he called me on the phone, I was about 5 months pregnant, and he said, I heard that you was pregnant. And I said, yes. He said, well, you know, I didn't, as his words were, I didn't hit it but one time. I said, first of all, I was a virgin. Second of all, it only takes one time. I said, you called me. I didn't call you. So I have nothing else to say to you. And I hung the phone up, and I didn't see him again until in recent. So yeah, I've been good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, just lost my train of thought because I got so much that I want to ask you because I've never
But
really
just
seen.
take the time.
My mind is going. Which question do you ask next? Which question? Okay, well, let me ask you this: do you feel, or with the women that you talk to and everything, what is the big difference between the emotional impact of it or the violent impact of it?
Well, in my case, it was more of the emotional. And the reason why I say that is because there's other cases where it's more violent. It's trauma is trauma, so what I experienced, and it doesn't make it any less or greater than anyone that literally got physically abused along with the rape. So with me, it was more emotional because I was young. It was emotional because I was 16. I was afraid to tell my mom. I didn't tell my mom until I was almost 5 months pregnant. And I really didn't tell her. She worked third shift, and I would always go in her bedroom and lock the door. So at night, so in the morning when she came in, she had to knock on the door. And so I could open up and so it could kind of run out. So it was always about, and at the time, and for so many years, I was a people pleaser. So I was always concerned about what people was going to think of me, what my mom was going to think, what my family was going to think. So it was more emotional, stress, and for the people that was my support group, the people that I loved, as well as this man, has really just sort of kind of shook me mentally. But God is so gracious and he's so merciful that he didn't allow that act to take me down to the point of total depletion of my mental and spiritual capacity.
Okay. So now let's go ahead and get into the nitty gritty of it. Okay. So when did you marry the abuser, and what all did he do, and for how long?
We was together a little shy of 10 years. You name it, he did it. From I had dislocated shoulders, black eyes, teeth marks in my face. One thing about an abuser is that they want control and power. That's why an abuser is not always just physical. It can be emotional, it can be mental, it can be financial, because what they want is the control and the power of another individual. So in saying that, the physical aspects was all he could control me by, because at the time, as we got older, I made more money than him, so he couldn't control the money. I was deeper in church, so he couldn't control me spiritually. He could not do but so much to me, but beat me. And so, unfortunately, because of my children, my why I stayed as long as I did was because my sons, my twins, which are the oldest of my three, they didn't know their father. And so mentally, I kept thinking that I can endure this for the sake of my son, so they could have a father figure, even though that's sort of kind of a twisted thing, because he was an abuser to me, but my children really didn't see a lot of the abuse, and so at that time I'm thinking, well, they don't see all of this, so it's not that bad. I'm trying to convince myself to stay in it for the sake of my kids. But at the end of the day, my kids were the reason why I left. So it was twofold. But his name almost slipped. I'm sorry. But the abuser, he would get drunk on Thursday. He got paid every Thursday. He would drink all weekend, and then he want to fight. My former mother-in-law, I would talk to her and she would say, well, Pam, just don't say anything to him. Let him go through his drinking spell. Let him do the, and it's like she was condoning it because she had been a victim. So she knew how to maneuver around not getting beat as much. Well, me being Pam, I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. If you have worked all week and you come home and you want to drink up your paycheck before you pay bills, then we're going to have to talk about it. If I want to go to church one Sunday, I was going to church and getting the kids dressed, and he was at one time was going, and he said, well, just leave the kids here. I said, no, I got it. And he, and I'm 9 months pregnant with my youngest son now. The youngest son that I have now, I was pregnant with him. And he hit me in the stomach and gave me a black eye. And I went to church with sunglasses on. That's another instance. Another time he got drunk and just kept throwing me against the wall over and over again because I wouldn't answer his question the way he wanted me to answer the question. And see, that's part of, and then another instance was I called the police and he literally hit me in front of the police. And so it's so many different events that I experienced. I mean, I can continue to go on, but that's one of the reasons why me and another survivor have started a program called Back-to-Back Empowerment, because we know that the victims need support.
Yeah.
And what Back-to-Back Empowerment is going to do is when we find those that are in those situations, you can call us. Not only will we advocate for you, not only will we provide case management for you, but what we would do is that we would make ourselves available or another advocate available to you. So if you want to call that abuser, instead of calling that abuser, you call us. We will empower you. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because being from Chicago and living in North Carolina, I had very limited family, had very limited support group. So I couldn't call anyone, you know what I'm saying, to say, hey, I'm trying to get out of this. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of resources as it is now. And so I didn't want to take the trouble to my mom's house, you know what I'm saying, because if I would have left, he would have followed. I had lived 2 doors down from my mom one time, and we got into an argument, and I just ran out the house, and he football tackled me in the grass in the apartment complex and just started beating me. But I had to muffle my literally stop myself from screaming so my mom wouldn't come out. You know what I'm saying? But if I could have had someone that I could have called that could have directed me to a shelter, directed me to whatever the case might have been, maybe I would have gotten out sooner. But the fact remained the same, is that I got out when I got out. I left one time in 8 years, and returned. And the second time I left, I never returned. Statistics say a victim leaves at least 7 times out of their domestic situation or domestic crisis before they actually leave for a final time. So
here's what I want to ask you. How, now I always say spirits know the other spirit. So how do guys like this normally approach women? Because it got to be some kind of suave or something that they know that they can get you to fall in love with them, to marry them, to then turn and start beating them.
It's not, I wouldn't even say it's always the man. It's the woman. It's the woman that draws a certain man because they're looking for a certain need to fulfill. Sometimes that need could be physical. Sometimes that need can be financial. Sometimes that need could be emotional. With me, he was 4 years my senior, and he didn't have the most swag. Actually, when I look back at him, I'm like, Lord, what was I thinking? But to say it's not always the man that has the swag, but the insecurity of that woman. Now, I didn't have insecurities and low self-esteem is 2 totally different things. It can be intertwined and it can be similar, but they're different. Because with me, even though I was raped and I had twin boys, I didn't have insecurities. I had insecurities, but I didn't have low self-esteem. And what I mean by that is that I've always been assertive. I've always was a go-getter. I always wanted the best for my life, even as a young age. And now that I had kids, I wanted the same thing. But I met a man that just happened to be getting out of the service, had his own place at 20 some years old. He had his own car. He was decent guy. And he accepted me and my children as his own. So in saying that, that was the draw, that he was willing to accept me and my children as his own. So I wouldn't say it was a swag. I would say at that time he was genuine. And I met someone that I thought was genuine in their approach to securing me and my sons as a family.
Right. Yeah. Now, which branch of service were you in, and what branch was he in?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
What branch of the service were you guys in?
No, he was in the Army. I was not in the service.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard you say you served or something earlier. So,
No,
all
yeah,
right.
he was in the service. He had just came out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. He should know better than that. I was in the Army too for 11 years. You know better than that. But so
Okay. Well, you know what? To be honest, there's a lot of them that's been in the service that are abusers.
yeah,
So,
because they some you right, because they some heavy drinkers and all that kind of stuff. They do have some issues.
yeah.
I think that's one of the things with some of the other services. They don't. I think the Army took more people. I hate to say lower grade people than the other services, but they were almost at one time just like, hey, can you breathe and shoot? Come on in. So
Yeah, exactly. And that's
it was
real.
kind of crazy. Yeah, so they got a little bit of everybody. So you did bring it up, but I want to talk about it a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and let you talk about your program.
I didn't hear you. You kind of phased out on me.
That was me hitting buttons too quick. So yeah, so go ahead and tell us about the back-to-back empowerment. Let's get into it.
Okay. Yeah, as I said, back-to-back empowerment is a program that me and another survivor put together under my nonprofit Matters of the Heart and Mind that actually deals with the emotional and the mental instability due to violence. And so we are doing a domestic violence program that will not only advocate for the victims, but we will walk them through their journey. And back-to-back empowerment, we have a saying that we are the solution to the process, because it is a process that you have to take when you've been a victim, when you've gone through a traumatic experience, from taking out restraining orders, 50 Bs, having to have temporary shelter or even permanent housing, finding a job or even relocating. It is a process. And unfortunately, a lot of victims don't want to go through the process. And so what our piece is, one of our biggest components of it is that we will be there 24/7 for you. It's almost like a AA support system. You call us, if you want to call back to that abuser, you call back to back. We will talk to you. We'll empower you if we have to come and meet you, because especially during the pandemic right now, the rate of domestic violence has increased so much, over 250%, that we believe that a great deal of that is due to repeat abuse. In other words, that victim is going back to that abuser. And so back to back wants to be able to say, hey, okay, you don't have to call him and you don't have to go back to him. Allow us to empower you, allow us to provide you with case management, which means that if that means that you need temporary shelter, we'll help you to locate that. If that means that you need to transition into a different job or a different location or even housing, we will be able to. We don't have all of those components ourselves, but we will provide case management, which means that we will help to locate those services that you need. We are the resource center. And then not only that, if when we would go down to the magistrate to help you fill out your 50B or your restraining order. We would assist you with your court. We would attend court with you. We would advocate on your behalf, on the victim's behalf. So we have several services that are kind of unique to our area. And so we look forward to implementing it more. Unfortunately, right now, we don't have our website is in maintenance mode right now, but you can always go to our Facebook page, which is Back to Back Empowerment. And if you have any questions, any kind of, if you have donations, because we are raising money for a shelter, even though we have a couple of shelters in this area, but even right now, the shelters are packed. We're working on getting some temporary shelters, and we're just working diligently to resolve, or at least to help the victims in their time of crisis.
So I'm just thinking, so when you're saying that some of these women go back sometime about 7 times, so what are you finding out that caused them to go back? Is it just an emotional thing, or is it like a habit? What causes that?
Well, you have a lot of different reasons. You have a lot of different whys. Sometimes it's um, emotional, that emotional attachment that they can't seem to shake. Sometimes it's the financial aspect that, well, I don't have a job. He's been a sole provider. So, I don't want to stay in a shelter with my kids, or I don't want to be out, or just want to go back to the comfort of my home. So because he provides that. So they go back on that end. A lot of times is their abuser is almost like an addiction. It's like a substance to them. They can't live without them, regardless of how severe they treat them. They just feel like they have to go back. It's also this low self-esteem. They don't think that nobody else wants them, that they can't find anybody else, or better yet, it could be a generational curse, or generational issue where, because they've seen their mom be abused, they think that's the norm. They think that, hey, you know what? My mom went through this. My grandmother went through this. I'm going through this. This is just the norm. This is all this is all we are worth, or this is all we are capable of receiving from a man or a woman, because you have men that are being abused as well. So the why could be a wide range. It could be mental health, for that matter. That they don't have the capability of making rational decisions. And believe me, that population is really rising in the domestic violence arena.
Okay. So also now, I was thinking while you were talking. So what is the impact on the children when they see their parent going through this? And is the impact different versus boys and girls?
Well, the impact, there's definitely an impact, because what that child is experiencing is a toxic environment. That toxic environment to the point where it can be detrimental, whether it be a male or female. And what I mean by that is that all of these issues are imparted in them. In other words, a male boy can feel like, okay, as he grows up, it's all right for him to hit a woman. It's all right for him to go against the grain. It's all right for him to go against laws and rules and regulations. It's all right for him to do that. A girl, she can easily say, you know what, because of what she's seen, it's okay for her to be hit. It's okay for her to be belittled. It's okay for her to feel like that she's less or not as equal as a man. So it's so many different dynamics. It's so many different layers that the children start developing over the years of being in a toxic environment. There are layers on top of layers on top of layers that, unfortunately, those layers that have been created, they have to be removed. And so many times that a man doesn't know why he has a certain outlook on a woman. You know what I'm saying? He might be an upstanding citizen, never hit a woman or anything like that, but he's seen his father hit his mom, or he's seen his mom get hit by her boyfriend. And so now his perception of a woman can be a certain way, and he's trying to figure out, why does he look at women this way? Because there's layers on top of layers that has been created in his life due to what he had experienced as a child. Now, on the flip side of that, with the women, it could be the very same thing, is that they get into a relationship with a man, a good man. Man is not hitting them. A man is not degrading them. I mean, he loves her and he wants the best for her, but yet she sabotages the relationship because she can't trust him, because she believes that eventually he's going to hit her, or eventually he's going to say something. I mean, the psychological aspects are beyond our imagination of what happens to a child that's in a toxic environment, such as a domestic violence situation.
Well, man, yeah, hey, you're throwing a lot out there, but hey, here's since you said all that, here's what I want to ask you then.
Okay.
So, I know, like you said, you trying to get with these women to work on these women. So since we're talking about the kids, I brought up the kids. So then now, how do you also kind of like work and help the kids? So like you said, they won't be keeping this cycle going that you just explained?
Yeah, well, we are actually going to be developing a program for that as well. We are a new program in our community, and we still, constantly developing, but right now we're focusing on the women, and our biggest focus is advocacy, case management, and shelter. Um, Whether it be temporary shelter, whether it be, long-term shelter and transitional. So eventually our desire is to have programs for our youth, because we will be having some therapists on board that will definitely be assisting the parents. And so where there's parents, there will be children. So we're definitely going to be implementing that in our program as well.
Great, great. So about to close it out, but is there anything that you wanted to get into that you wanted people to know?
Well, one of the biggest things that I would like people to know is that abuse is not just physical. Abuse is, as I mentioned earlier, is mental, spiritual, financial, emotional. And just because you don't see a person with a scar on them doesn't mean that they're not experiencing that. I was, like I said, I was raised in church, and I went through so many different things. And even to the point where one instance where my abuser hit me in the stomach and gave me a black eye. And I went to church with some sunglasses on. And one of the members saw me before I went in, and she knew that I had a black eye. And after church, she told the pastor, and the pastor called me in the office and said, asked me to take my glasses off. And he was like, "Baby, I'm sorry. Is there anything I can do?" Now, this has been many, many years ago. But the point I'm making is that, especially in a church-based, faith-based, or a church, we've got to become more aware. We have to be aware of domestic violence, prevention of domestic violence, educate domestic violence, rehabilitate domestic violence. Those are the core elements of what back-to-back empowerment wants to do. And so I'm saying that to say that, being an advocate, if anyone in our area of Greensboro or in North Carolina so desired to become an advocate or volunteer with us, it would be great, because what that would entail is that, and please reach out on our Facebook page, Back to Back Empowerment. And what that would entail is that you would know how to advocate. You would know how to be in and out with someone that has gone through a crisis of domestic violence. Well, not only that, but then you would be able to know the telltale signs. And one of the unique parts about that is that once you understand domestic violence, whether you're an advocate, volunteer, or just someone listening here and have a desire to know more about domestic violence, once you learn, you would be able to spot, you would be able to recognize someone that's possibly in a domestic violence crisis or relationship, and you would be able to learn how to approach them, not in a way where it's offensive. And the more people that know more about domestic violence as far as the educational piece, I believe the less domestic violence occurrences will take place, because now you have support groups all around a person. Now they can see, hey, something's going on with her, something going on with Pam. She's not acting the same, or different statements, or like, for instance, with me, I use myself as an example. I would say, well, I got to get home before such and such gets home, and say that with a sense of fear, in a sense. Well, some people might not even recognize that as a sense of fear. They would say, "Oh, she got to get home." But when you start learning about domestic violence and you start learning the traits of a victim, then you will be able to reach out to them in a way that, or even build their trust up in you, so that you can approach them and say, "Hey, are you okay?" And I think that that's the biggest part of society is, especially in the African American community, is that the domestic violence has been such a taboo to talk about, that nobody wants to talk about it. So when nobody wants to talk about it, then no one wants to approach anyone or show concern that or see that something's going on and even approach them, because that's not what we do in our, unfortunately, in my opinion, in our culture.
Right. And so since you did bring up, like I said, you went to church, sister saw you, knew that you had a black eye. So let me ask you, how involved then should the church be in the domestic violence when they see this? Like you said, because people see something, be like, hey, it ain't none of my business, I ain't getting involved. If the pastor don't see it and don't address it, then I don't got nothing to do with it. So how involved do you think the church should be?
In this day and time, I think the church should be very much involved in it. It has been a taboo. And then on top of that, you're looking at, just pray about it. It'd be all right. Just stick in there, especially if the abuser is the spouse, pray about it. And, we can pray and God can deliver, but God also gives us wisdom and understanding that, okay, this is not of God. God is not going to have me to stay in an abusive marriage, get beat, possibly. No, that's not God at all. So, we have to recognize that there is a place for the church. I believe that place in the church is to be available to the parishioners or to the members of the church or to the community. I believe that the church should house as many mega churches that there is. And I know there's liabilities when it comes to shelters, but especially in the pandemic time, a lot of churches are not even utilizing their fellowship halls or their classrooms. They can implement programs or temporary shelters, 24 to 48 hour shelters because once again, in this area, the shelters are packed. There's no room for nobody, especially those that have gone through a crisis, such as a domestic violence or sexual assault or whatever. There's no shelters. So I believe that the church used to be the foundation of the community. And because of that, I think that they need to return back to being the foundation of the community. We're set up, the churches are set up as businesses, and that's a good thing, but also we still need to be able to say, hey, what can we do in our community for domestic violence? What can we do to take some of these classrooms that we have that we're not utilizing because of the pandemic and turn it into a temporary shelter, 24 to 72 hour shelter for those that have gone through a crisis? Or, there's just a lot. It's a lot that can be done. And I believe that the church need to dive deeper into the community and find out what they can do to help.
Okay. So then if that's the case, I know, like you said, you're getting started and you're building your programs. So seems to me then that one of your programs would also be getting with the churches to build these type of programs. So like I said, people can recognize and know abuse when they see it, so they can go ahead and immediately deal with it and get them into the shelters, get them help. So you plan on doing something like that also?
Yes, actually, we plan on having a round table or town hall meeting with some of the church faith-based community leaders and seeing exactly what can be done. Of course, when it comes to shelters, there are limitations. There's liabilities that occur. There's insurances that's needed. But at the end of the day, I believe that being able to secure a safe haven for someone or for a family, or it speaks volume to the assistance that can be put in place in the community. Because once again, I know in this area we have a lot of churches that are not even using their facility right now because of COVID. So this would even be a great time to, I think, to sit down and we're making a list actually of leaders that we're going to approach, hopefully by the latter part of March, early April.
Great. All right. So like I said, I appreciate you jumping on with me, getting that good word out there about that, to let people know that not just because you go through it, But like I said, not just being a victim, but being a overcomer, a survivor of it. And there is life after that, so it's not the end of the world. And like I said, the more people to hear the stories, because you know, when I saw you on the Facebook, I was like, I need to talk to this sister right here because I don't see it, I don't deal with it. I don't even think I really know anybody that's in the situation at the time. But at the same time, it's happening 24 hours. You see what I'm saying?
And
And
it is.
so
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's why I said I need you to come on and say something so people know that they need to, go ahead and and like you said, the thing we need to stop doing is being so it ain't none of my business. What you mean it ain't none of your business? So if you sit up there and you can see or tell that somebody's being abused or being hurt, and then you sit up and talking about it's not none of your business, and then the next thing you read, you watch the news, and then they like sister so and so dead, got beat to death by her husband, and then you like, man, I should have said something. Yeah, you're right. You should have said something. You could have saved a life right there. And
Right.
we can't be scared to say stuff because one of the things about love, aka God, and it says, what more, paraphrasing, of course, but what more that a person would do that would lay down their life for their brother. You know what I'm saying? So you can't be scared, especially when it's a woman, the mother of our children, and something's going on with her and you're not saying anything. There's shame on you. So that's why I had you come on there to make sure you put that out there. And if you have some more stuff that comes up, just reach out to me and we'll jump back on here for you to put out more information for us.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me. And one of the things that, when it comes to back-to-back empowerment, I want to tell the victims that it's coming around the corner to becoming survivors is that, as I told you, I was raped at 16, and dealt with this and with being in a domestic violence situation for 8 plus almost 10 years actually, and so not only did God bring me out of it, but I end up getting my GED when my sons were about 3 years old, and went on and raised them. Now I'll be graduating with my master's in May. I have my own business, working on a couple of other businesses as well. And the point I'm bringing up this is that you don't have to be stuck in where you were. When I put the post on there, is that people didn't know that I was a victim, but they only knew me as a survivor. They've only seen what I'm doing now, because at the end of the day, I kept everything behind closed doors. So they didn't know the pain and the struggle that I was going through. They didn't know that this man actually, he beat me throughout the course of our relationship. And then when I fled, I had just paid all the household bills, and all I had was checks, writing checks. He took all the money out the bank. I fled to Chicago, back home to Chicago, stayed there 9 months, came back to 15 worthless checks that I had to pay. They put me on a first offenders program, a check a month, and 200 community service hours. I told the lady, Miss Chapman, I said, I can't do 200 community service hours. I said, I have 3 sons and I'm working, managing a restaurant. I don't have time, Make a long story short, I paid all my restitution. I said, if you can give me more fines, I pay more fines, But she said, no, I go to court after a year. I paid off 12 checks, had 3 left. It was total 15 checks. The judge said, Ms. Such and such said that you're in compliance. You didn't do everything you're supposed to do. I said, sir, I've been in compliance. I said, I have not done my community service hours, but I pleaded with her. She said there was not anything she could do. I paid all 12 checks. I said, I pay a check a month. This is 1 year later. I have 3 left. And I didn't do my community service hours. He said, well, did you bring proof that you got the check? Did you pay these 12 checks? I said, no, sir. He said, well, why didn't you? I said, I didn't think I had to prove the court's wrong. And so he says, are you in contempt of court? I said, no, sir, you asked me a question. He said, 6 months, suspended sentence, 8 days in jail. So I said that to say, my abuser, not only did he abuse me, he put me in a situation where I had to go to jail for 4 weekends. Friday at 6 p.m. to Sunday at 6 p.m. and not many people know it. This is my first time even publicly saying this, but I said that to say domestic violence is no joke. Those abusers are no joke. Society can keep their mouths closed and let people get beaten, let people get hurt. But it's not just that. But you're looking at kids. I had to find babysitters for my kids for 4 weekends. You know what I'm saying? The mental aspect of knowing that I'm going to jail and have to stay there a whole weekend and then come back. The mental abuse that was just going in there. How would you feel if you know you're going to go to jail? Then you know what I mean? You got to sleep on a metal bed. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying all of that is that, you know, domestic violence is more than just telling on somebody to get, you're not just telling on somebody to prevent them from being beat. You are helping them to save lives, not just from the abuser, but the mental abuse that comes along with everything that victim is going through. You know, I mean, I end up not only being beat in so many different ways, in so many different capacities, but then going to jail for something that I didn't even do. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we have to fight more for a domestic violence. We need to bring more awareness out to it. You know, we need to be more, like right now, what we want to do, Brenda and I, we want to have it whereas in the state of North Carolina, you have to be separated 1 year before you can get a divorce. But we want to be able to eliminate that. Because if that abuser abused you one time, and you're beat, and that's the part that we're trying to put together is how we can form this, you know, worded, whereas we can take it to Congress, because there are so many different things that abuser gets away with that the victim ends up having to settle for. And it's not fair. But I'm getting on another tangent. I do apologize, but this thing is deep. It really, really, really is deep.
I see that. Well, and here's the deal. Like I told you before, you need to be on more shows in newspapers or whatever you got going on there, because a lot of women, like you said, they need to know that, hey, this is what I've been through. This is how many years. And then, like you just told us, you had to go to jail because you did all this because of things he did. But through all of that and through your faith, that look at me now. Like you said, I've done it. I've been there. You know what I'm saying? I'm working my business. Hey, I raised my kids. You know, I got it. I'm running a business and trying to open 2 more and still advocating for you. So don't look at yourself. Don't, just because you're in this situation now, don't mean this is where you have to stay.
There you go. That's the point.
If you look at me, I used to be you, so that means you could be me. So that's what you got to get out there and let them know.
Amen. That's what's up.
So before I let you go ahead and tell them one more time all your social media stuff where they can get a hold of.
Yeah, social media is back-to-back empowerment. If you go to the Facebook page of that, it would link you to all of our other links, all of our other social media. Me personally, on my Instagram, I'm The Sky is the Beginning. Twitter, Pam Matt. My Facebook page, Pamela Matthews Turner. But for the most part, back-to-back empowerment will get you to our domestic violence piece.
All right, there she goes, ladies and gentlemen. My new friend, I'm going to call her Sister Pamela Turner. Hey, until we do it again, you take care of yourself, stay safe, and we're going to pray for you. Keep that anointing of love on you so you can do what you got to do and make this change in this world today, all right?
Amen.
All
Thank
right,
you so much for having me.
No problem. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there she goes. That is Sister Pamela Turner. Y'all make sure y'all jump on all her social media. Any way you can help, lend a hand, whatever you can do, make sure that you do that. And welcome to another episode. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the listeners out there. And again, make sure on Facebook that you go ahead and hit the little like buttons, hit the hearts, share the videos, comment, and do the same thing on YouTube. But make sure you subscribe. I appreciate you guys. You pumping everything up. All the views on the videos are going up. The subscriptions are going up. So y'all keep on doing it, because like I said, I want to be able to monetize this thing so I can give money to you. I don't need it. I want to give it away. So whatever they saying, however they do it and however they make the money, if it's $3,000 a month, I'm giving $3,000 away. So I want to be able to break it down. So y'all go out there and tell people that, hey, go to YouTube, subscribe, go to Facebook, do all that stuff to make that monetization go up so we can give money away to you. That's my mission. It's not for me, it's all for you, because you are God's people, and I'm here to serve you just like God is. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care of yourself. And you know what we always say, you make sure that you continuously and constantly walk in love, because you might be the only love that anybody ever sees. So you guys remember, walk in love.